The cultural and creative industry has a particular ability, that of integrating creativity, design and non-technological innovations with cutting-edge technology to generate new products, new industrial value chains and revitalize traditional industries. Thus, CCIs play a key role in the reindustrialization of Europe, in driving growth and in triggering innovative spillovers in other industrial sectors. The European Agenda for Culture recognizes the role of the CCIs in generating innovative solutions that impact positively in other sectors and help boosting the competitiveness of our economy. That's industrial transformation. Culture, creativity, and social innovation are an added value when integrated in all processes and bring to a more sustainable, human-centric and resilient economy and society. But how to connect the potential of creative industries with old and new markets, thus triggering innovation for Europe? This is what the Interact Med social and creative community is wondering about. Let's discover it together at the Innovation Camp 2 Industrial Transformation on 24th and 25th November. The cultural and creative industry has a particular ability, that of integrating creativity, design and non-technological innovations with cutting-edge technology to generate new products, new industrial value chains and revitalize traditional industries. Thus, CCIs play a key role in the reindustrialization of Europe, in driving growth and in triggering innovative spillovers in other industrial sectors. The European Agenda for Culture recognizes the role of the CCIs in generating innovative solutions that impact positively in other sectors and help boosting the competitiveness of our economy. That's industrial transformation. Culture, creativity, and social innovation are an added value when integrated in all processes and bring to a more sustainable, human-centric and resilient economy and society. But how to connect the potential of creative industries with old and new markets, thus triggering innovation for Europe? This is what the Interact Med social and creative community is wondering about. Let's discover it together at the Innovation Camp 2 Industrial Transformation on 24th and 25th November. The cultural
Should I? Okay. Good morning. Good morning to you all. Let's start with this meeting dedicated to that try to join technologies, arts through creativity and innovation. And let me just say a couple of words about this. This idea to join technologies and arts, it's an interesting thing because it reminds me a movement in the beginning of the 20th century called the Bauhaus. But the interesting part is in the last 23 of April this year, Ursula von der Leyen has a speech, very interesting, that proposes the renewal of this idea. It is to develop a sector that has a long tradition in Europe. This is why this movement was called the New Bauhaus. Together, beautiful, sustainable. This is somehow what this project means through the innovation, creativity, and technologies. Let's try to improve the sectors that especially in Europe, we are good and we know how to deal with. It is these sectors of cultural and creative industries. We joined at the same time the digital Europe, but at the same time also we can develop this creative and cultural industry sector. And by the way, because we are in the framework of the Interreg program, it is a nice thing to remember that next Sunday, the 28th, we can celebrate the Mediterranean Day. So in this moment, it's interesting to be together for this occasion. In 3 days, we can commemorate that. So let's start our meeting. My name is Philippe Temoud Barat. I'm from Evora, and I think I'm very linked to this idea of creative and cultural industry, because I was the founder of the first UNESCO chair related to intangible heritage. So it's something that touched me a lot, these kind of things. Let me also say that this meeting it's linked through and can be followed by the Social and Creative fan page on the Facebook. And this is so let's start to the meeting, and I will give the floor to Madam Giovanna Elisa Bellingerio, and let's start to do so.
Hello everybody, I'm very happy to be here and deliver my message to the Social and Creative Innovation Camp number 2. I have to say that Regione Puglia, in her tradition, has always fostered the creativity not only as a cultural phenomenon, but also as an engine for economic development. And the economic development is an important element to reach social equity. So I have to say, occasions such as today's one are very important for us to, let's say, to think about, to make a think tank about how our policies in time have had impact on the territory, on our and on the territories in the surrounding, and also what are the data about all the, let's say, all the elements that compose the framework we are working on. So we need this data, we need this new kind of open innovation, such as the one we are doing today, to design our policies better, to make them more effective. I want to say that we have to face several challenges nowadays. One coming from the pandemic, and in the social and creative industry, the pandemic was really not only a tragedy, a cause of a very difficult time for all the operators, but also, let's say, an opportunity to bring a new form of communication between the operators and the public, and new model of business. So I think that today you will discuss about how this challenge can be taken, and how we can imagine the future of the social and creative industry, not only in Puglia, but of course in all the Mediterranean. And the other challenge, very important, is sustainability. And this is, of course, an horizontal challenge, like your project is an horizontal project of the Interreg Med. And I think that creativity is very important to find new ways to reach the balance between, let's say, for instance, employment and environment. For instance, the balance between energy made by renewable sources and the land consumption. So we have different tasks to think about, and I'm sure after your work we will have more ideas and more elements to base our next policy on. So thank you very much, and I wish you a really good time.
Thank you, Ms. Bellingerio. She's the, I have not said that she's the director of the economic department of the beautiful Puglia region. And I thank you very much to you. And now I will give the floor to Mr. Christopher Meyer. He's the project officer of Interreg Med project. That personally, it's one of the most interesting programs for me, because from the last 20 years I have met programs. This is perhaps so. So please, Mr. Meyer, you have the floor. We are very curious about what you're going to say for the future, by the way. So please, you have the floor.
Okay, I think we have hello from Marseille. As Philippe has mentioned, we are Interreg Med. We have funded the social creative innovation community for the last, since 2014, more or less. We have always some delays with starting a program. You will experience this also for the next period. This transition is always a little bit, it's a lot of things going on. We will see what I can tell you about where we are now. First thing, when it comes to the next program period, if you go to our website, Interreg Med, you will find easily, because all search engines will refer you to our website. You will always find updated information about where we are, because perhaps some of you know, it's a process of interaction between different stakeholders until we get closer to the program and to the relevant points about particularly for the project partners when it comes to semantic analytics. I will start, however, with looking back. We are now at the point where we have somehow we can look back, because there are no new projects to be submitted to the program 2014 to 2020. So we are not done with the program, because obviously projects are still continuing to run, but we will not have another call. So this program, we can already look back and see some figures. We can see how it was organized. You know, most of you know how the communities have been organized. You can see that we had something like 142 approved projects during the whole period. I can complete that we had more than 840 participants and something like 1,300 participations. There are more participations, evidently, because some participants are taking part in several projects. You see, we have different priorities. We have different communities. You see, we have different types of projects. This is what you see on the bottom. The priorities are the different colors, and the communities are the themes that are mentioned inside each onglet. So this is giving you a short idea of how MED has been functioning, is still continue to function until next year. It will take also a while until we close the whole program, of course. Just to give you figures on the financial side concerning this priority axis 1, where we had also located social and creative innovation. It was more or less something like 1/3 of the ERDF funding and the respective IPA funding that went to that side, innovation, which is of course grouping, going back here, you can see 3 different communities. There's social and creative, obviously, but there's also blue growth and green growth. Then, yes, okay, perhaps one thing to mention, we are not a very focused program. The goal of Interreg is interregional cooperation. So we have a very large focus. In general, you can see that the priority axes are more or less going to very different domains. I give you here an outlook on what has been targeted by social and creative innovation. You see that it's quite also for this community, it has been from concerning the different topics, it has been very large. So we were targeting open data, social entrepreneurship, public sector innovation, culture and creative. So quite a large focus. So this was the challenge for the respective horizontal projects, somehow guiding the community to find the way through these sometimes very different topics during this running project time. Okay, now we're going to what is going to come. Actually, we are talking about 21-27, which means 21 is now almost about to finish, but you still cannot submit projects because to put everything on place, it takes usually a little bit longer than the project indicated project period. So the possibility to submit projects will start during next year. We still cannot give you a precise date on this. We will see it's going to be stabilized in the next months. I hope that we have an outlook on which call can be expected. For now, we just know it is next year, and we know also that we will again have thematic communities. The target will be slightly different, or not slightly different, but will be different. You will see on this, I will explain you. And they will start before these, what we call standard projects or single modular projects in the new draft. If you look at the draft version that you can download from our page, you will find them under single modular projects. So this is a little bit the architecture. It looks perhaps on the first view, it looks somehow also complex. There are 2 different logics. We have, if you start from the bottom, you have again the priorities. So we have 3 priorities, and we have this is very important. The main goal, to mention the main goal. Because during the next years, during the coming years, the European Union is very ambitious on transition towards a climate neutral society. You know this, and we are very late all over with this. So we have to, from all sides, we have to give a very important priority to this point. So this is also the overwhelming topic of the next Euromed. We call it Euromed program 21-27. So from all sides, we are trying to contribute to this overall goal. Okay, now we have the priorities. We still have a priority that is going to the side, we call it Smarter Med, and then we have another priority that is going to the side Greener Med. They are complementary, And the third priority is the governance priority. So what you can see is that from the top, we have now different missions. The missions are taking up the logic from the program side. So we have forged these missions in according towards tourism. These missions are defining the future thematic communities. So starting from the top level, so starting from the climate neutral society and all the necessities that are consequent to this, we have now the first mission targeting innovative sustainable economy, a second mission restoring the natural environment and heritage, and a third mission promoting green living areas. The fourth mission can take up from all these objectives, because in this middle line you can see the different objectives that are contributing to each mission, can take up from each of these four objectives that have been chosen for the program, and can present projects that are related to tourism, which is still a very important factor in the Mediterranean. So this is somehow trying to explain the complex logic of the next program. Why do we have missions and objectives? Because missions are taking up the program logic, while the objectives are an overall European logic. So all Interreg programs are working with these objectives, not only with these, there are many more, but we had to make a choice to have an impact also with the funding. If we cannot contribute to these altogether, there are, I don't know, 12 or 20 objectives. So we had to make a choice, and these are the objectives that have been considered by the task force as the relevant objectives for the next program period for the MED program. Okay, what does this mean in detail? When you want to think about in which direction could you perhaps design your projects. So I'm starting with the first of the four objectives that have been taken up for the new Euromed program. So it is still targeting research and innovation capacities and the uptake of advanced technologies. This seems a little bit like what we had also done for the ongoing period, and you can still work on internationalization innovation capacities, particularly for SMEs. Then there's also the side that comes from the topic of circular economy. So this is what I have mentioned below. Interesting, this is, for example, also to cultivation of the reuse philosophy. So to work on that side could also be an interesting target for the social creative community. We have to say, yes, the third one that I have mentioned is referring to the experience of COVID and how we can perhaps adapt to a post-COVID context, perhaps even going further and to think about a more resilient models for pandemia in a larger sense, because we don't know. We had expected in the beginning of 2020 that we are out of COVID in 1 year or so. Now we see it's still there's still an impact. So we don't know. It is probably important also to think that in the future we might be confronted to similar situations, and not only think in a logic of everything is going to be fine at one point. We are learning this as well. I have to say that all this input that I give to you is indicative only. So of course there are different ideas also that you could present. We still have no call open. So this is based only on the draft program. So when we have a call, only we know what will be the specific targets of that you could present your project. So for now, we are talking about the framework. Okay. Then, and this is also, I don't want to insist for too long time on all this. Then there's also the possibility, of course, to approach from different sides. So we have seen on this slide, we have seen a contribution that is possible to the mission 1, that is targeting somehow innovation still from different sides, also from the circular economy side and from the innovation side itself. Then we have, for example, different missions where it is also possible to think about contributions from the social community, social innovation community and cultural. So, for example, there's a possibility of targeting cultural heritage via tourism, sustainable tourism models. This would then probably be an approach that is that would be taken up by the tourism community, but never mind. It is also all these communities are interacting. This is of course, they are not separated. They are interacting. And another point that I want to another example that I wanted to give you is concerning biodiversity conservation as an economic and social value. So this is also looking at it from a so far different angle, but an important angle. Your input to this community, still interacting with social and creative with solutions provided from a social and creative point of view. So just to give you an idea that it's the approach will be a little bit different. The design, it will have a different impact on your design. The organization of communities will be different. It will not be strictly thematic. There will be much more overlaps. All this has been the reason for changing this has been the very important focus on climate change adaptation that we have to have in mind all the time. And yes, if you so far all this content that I have presented now, you can download it also from our webpage. I'm available now for some questions of participants, if there are. I have to get out of to share the slides. Okay, I found it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Christopher Meyer. Yes, please, if someone has questions that to present to Mr. Christopher Meyer, you just need to send it to the Ms. Anna Liberti, and we can put the questions in our doubts for the next framework of InterregMed. Yeah, there is questions. You still have our schedule on time, so we have some moments to attend the questions. Or perhaps, yeah.
I could add another point in the meantime, while you are perhaps thinking about questions, because I have noted down, but I have forgotten to add. There's also an impact of Brexit. So co-funding for this ongoing period has been 85%. For the next period, it will be limited to 80% for EIDF funding. This is perhaps not so good news, but okay, we have to cope with it. It is still 80%.
Okay, thank you. Can I waiting for the? Can I ask you something also, because just waiting for the questions. I have two questions, but I have a small question from myself. The first one is the south part of the Mediterranean countries could be associated to the project or not. This is the first one. And I have two more questions from the public. The first one is, do the horizontal project will still exist? This is the first one. And the second one is, are there any specific sectors within the CCI that are priority to the program? This is cultural and creative industry, of course. So, Mr. Christopher Meyer, at least this, my small question, and the other two, please.
Okay, I'm just going to your question concerning the south of the Mediterranean. During the ongoing period, it has been possible to participate in the program only as associated partners. This is going to continue. Then, you know, there is a program that is targeting more the southern part of the Mediterranean. It was during the ongoing period, it's called INI. During the next period, it's probably called Next Med, from what I know. We are in contact with this program as well, and the inter-program cooperation is also one of the targets of to have a stronger interaction between different programs. Is one of the targets for the next period. However, it will be to cooperate inside the program. For now, we have the same possibility as during this year, of course, as associated partners to participate for partners from the southern part of the Mediterranean, directly with MED. Concerning the horizontal projects, there will be what we call now thematic community projects, but they will be aligned to the 4 missions that I have mentioned. So this means the outline of these projects will be different. So the target should be oriented by the targets of the different missions. Then we have for each thematic community project, we have a respective governance project also that is somehow like a mirror on the governance, more working on the governance side. Excuse me. While the thematic community projects are working more with the different communities. So this is concerning this interaction. It is the design will be a little bit different. There is also a possibility to see the details of how it is planned for now in the draft that you can download from our webpage. There's a special chapter about thematic community projects and about the institutional side of the project. Concerning cultural creative industries, for now, as I've said, for now we don't have a call that has. This is usually a call where you have particular focuses. So it is just in general what I have said. It is mentioned, of course, in the next framework, but I cannot tell you in what how it will be presented for the next call. Usually for the first call, the focus is open. So I think for the first call, we can assume that it will be part of the game. You can see I have mentioned some points where contributions are expected, also from cultural creative industries. And then, as it is an indicative list, of course, there might be different as long as they fit to the framework of the new program. So
okay, thank you. But don't be surprised that I have more questions
No. This is
So I have one question more. In fact, I have more than one question. The first one is, what about integration with next generation EU strategy? This is the first one, and I have another one. When are the first call foreseen to be launched? So you have these more two questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Don't be surprised of that.
So far, I have no particular information about integration of next EU generation strategies. We are establishing contacts with all different types of strategies. There are different types of strategies as macro-regional strategies, different other programs like LIFE and Horizon. We are trying to establish all this, of course. But I cannot give you for now on this particular point. I cannot give you very more than a general information, unfortunately. Then we had yes, as I have mentioned, the first call is targeting thematic community projects and the respective institutional projects, so the governance side. So we have 4 missions. This means we will have probably a target of 8 projects for that matter. It is important that they start before what we call the massive call for standard projects, because it is important that the community is somehow established before they are taking, that they can take up, that they can somehow accommodate the large amount of different projects that we are expecting. And so far, this is not possible to launch it this year because several things have to be considered. It is also important at what point officially the program will be sent to the European Commission. So behind the scenery, this has been a long debate. So it has to be next year, but it will be very early next year. So it will be in the first months of next year, and only when we have established these 8 projects, we can, of course, there's a parallel work also, but afterwards we will have the possibility to launch the call for the other projects, the first call, that is usually the largest one. And so I think you, from how it looks like, you can expect this call to be closed at the second half of 22.
Okay, thank you very much. The bad thing is through the internet, you have the question like this. If we are present personally, after the coffee break, you will have a lot of questions. So thank you very much, Christopher Meyer. And we move to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So the next speaker, I want to give the floor to Ms. Flavia Marzano. Yes. She's the computer scientist, university lecturer, and consultant of digital transformation, innovation strategies, and new technology and new media. She has she participates also in legislation of national and regional regulation for innovation, open government, open data, smart cities, evaluation of projects, this Formas computer for digital skills and open government. So Ms. Flavia Marzano, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I'm starting without video.
Let me just to say that after, of course, I think we can manage a situation after you finish your speak. We can accept the questions because it's much more interesting like this. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I start without video, and I tell you why. Tomorrow is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And we are used to reserve in any conference a seat. Is a tangible gesture dedicated to all women victims of violence. Each of those women used to take a seat on a tram, on a school, in the society before a man decided to put end of their lives. So that's why we do that. So let's begin now. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me here. I will share my screen, talking about something easier, let's say, than what I said so far. Who am I? As you said, I'm a computer scientist. Nobody's perfect, and that's my, you know, and that's what I'm working on. So you said already, my keywords are there. By the way, I was a Rome City Councilor deputy for all the information tags you said already. And this is another story. So during the quarantine, I was really busy just because I was a computer scientist. Everybody was calling me saying, what should I do? And that's why we're here today. We are in a difficult time, and we must look further to understand how this can become an opportunity to change planning right now, future developments. We would agree with Douglas Adams saying that technology is the stuff that doesn't work yet. But I would say, yeah, that's it's useful, and we will show how we can use technologies for a better life. Technologies create a new ecosystems, new lifestyles. We saw it during the pandemic. They are not good, they are not bad, no neutral, but they require competences, strictness, ethics, and discipline. We should work on that. We do not adapt technology to processes, but redefining processes, change roles, people, work environment, as we said during the home working, listen for the mutual trust, working together, and be early adopter. We can do it. We can do it, I'm sure. So this is just a figure showing how can we work, continuing this feedback, planning, building, integration, deploy, operate, and then continuous feedback. And I give you a present from Douglas Adams again, the 3 points of the nature of technological adoption. First, anything that is in the world where you're born is normal, ordinary, is just a natural part of the way the world works. See, this young girl is using a smartphone as a normal thing. That's normal. Say they're born in this era. Anything that's invented between when you are 15 and 35 is a new, exciting, revolutionary, and you can probably get a career in it. Think about those guys. So Steve Jobs and Facebook man. Of course, they had internet, they had technologies already ready for them, and they invented on that their future, the future of us also. So it can be exciting and revolutionary. And pay attention to that. Anything invented after you are 35 is against the natural order of things. And only after being in circulation for at least 10 years, it can be considered quite normal. I saw it with my father-in-law. He was 80 and he didn't use the smartphone. When he was 90, he was using it. So 10 years it took for him to get used to new technology. We should think about that. We should be, before saying that is something against the natural order of things, just think about that. So 10 years, maybe less. I hope it can be less, but depends on us, depends only on us. And I will talk about openness. That's my main idea on the future. So what can be done? There are some here, you can find some keywords. Digital transformation. Don't forget usability and accessibility, because the digital should be for everybody. And normally you see a website which is not exactly usable, rarely accessible for people with disability. So we should think about that, because the digital inclusiveness is also through technologies. Open data, we already listen from Kristen the idea of open data, of open source, but we will talk about that later. Simplification and regulation of services. At least in Italy, we have so many rules, so many ancient rules. So municipalities, for instance, they're born in the Middle Age, and the rules were reasonable at that time. They are not anymore now. We should simplify and make some new regulation of services. And open government declinated in participation, openness, communication, collaboration, accountability. We should give goals which must be measurable. I wouldn't say that I will give you happiness. I cannot measure it. So I should be accountable, giving my goals to citizens when I'm a politician. Infrastructure, of course, connectivity, broadband, whatever, but also private-public partnership is a great opportunity to make a new step in the future. And yeah, we saw something about agile job, let's say also agile life, agile relationship. We should turn problems into opportunity. We should think now, new rules, training, tools for smart, agile working, overcoming the infrastructural digital divide, but it's not just infrastructural. The digital divide is also sociological, economical, cultural, gender digital divide. Working on open data, open source, open innovation, let's say open mind. Einstein said that minds are like parachutes. They work best when open. So let's try from ourselves to open our minds. Innovation, new vision, not just new technologies, new vision. And this is a perfect image of what I mean by vision and change, now or never. Without vision, we get confusion. We'll see. We need vision, skills, incentives, resources. Of course, without resources, we get frustration. An action plan should be, of course, essential for being able, starting from vision to getting change, now or never. And I'll tell you some common mistakes I saw in my life working together with public administration. The first one is not invented here syndrome. It's unbelievable. When a new boss coming, both from the technical point of view, a politician is the same. They just put away everything they find on the table. On the table, there is maybe something wrong because the previous one did it, but probably you find also something good. So I prefer saying that I proudly found it elsewhere. He did it before me, is great. Why don't do it again? And starting from there, they did something nice, great, good, at least before me. And I have to use it, even if it is not invented here. And this is another common mistake. We always acted like this. And you probably know this, this story, the scorpion and the frog. Yeah, we don't have to say that. We did it always in this way. Okay, probably it was wrong. Probably it was right. It was right. Okay, let's think about that. It is right to do that or not? Even if we did it in the last 100 years, maybe we should change it, maybe. Just think about that. Working in silos. This is another impossible way to work. In any single place, in university, as in industry, in public administration, we should work together and not working in silos. The finger and the moon, we know what I mean. Too many times we see that we use in the right, we look in the wrong direction, let's say. Another one is that the users or the citizens are considered as mere faceless objects for who the systems are designed. So you design a new system, you cannot avoid to know who will be your user, the citizen using your services. So that's the point. Another common mistake that we do not are used to co-design. You see there the user experience is not very nice from this guy walking on the grass, but it's what they need. So the designer did it in the way and the user experience in another one. So why don't we co-design a service? Because the citizen, the users, they will help us in avoiding some mistake. So we need a smart and inclusive development by design. Our towns, as we said, they're not smart by design, they're dumb by design, as we see every day in a big city. Another common mistake is that many times experts fail because the expert in the past version of the word. We should think about that. And this is especially true for Italy. I don't know in other countries, but that was said Tacitus 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, he said, in the most corrupt state, there are too many laws. It is exactly what we have to work on, to reinvent our norms, our laws. And we don't have to forget this. The President Obama in 2009 said, "My administration is committed to creating an unprecedented level of openness in government." Openness means transparency, public participation, and collaboration. That's what I'm quite sure we should work on. But I would say that we are lucky now because we are at the crossroad. We have accessible technologies, almost for everybody, with unifying characteristic, potentially universal, easy distributable, and centered on present most important raw material, which is the information. So we are now at this crossroad. We should take the right street in the right direction. Yeah, I love acronyms, probably somebody knows, but okay, let's say I would be skeptics on that, but we should work on stakeholders, communities, ecosystem, participation. Technologies should be an opportunity to work on that, innovation, collaboration, and smart cities for all. And that's the opportunity, I say. We are in an ecotone. This is a great opportunity. What an ecotone is a zone between two major ecological communities. Let's say the sea, so water, the sand, the beach, and the mountains. Those are two different ecosystems. In one side, you find fish, in the other one, human or animal, other kind of animals. But so it contains species in different, in the middle. The ecotone are both fishes, let's say, I would say animals, but not only that, any kind of species with high biodiversity. And why should we work on that? Because we are now in the middle between beach and seaside, and we should think outside the box just to be able to innovate. Another acronym, vision, view from different perspective. We will talk about that again. Involve people, any kind of people who should be involved bottom up in the community to work together, to choose together our future, our vision, share knowledge, ideas, software, data. Christoph talk about reuse, also open data. Imagine, no constraint of thinking, open mind. Organize ourselves first, of course, and navigate, drive your collaborator. That's a kind of suggestion. User is unique. I'm me and another citizen at the same time. The same town probably has different perspective, different goals, different needs. So any user should be seen as a unique person, sensible, engageable. We should engage users and reactive. Albeit, of course, some attention. Engagement is a value and create value. Technologies, even if they are not always the solutions, sometimes they are not. Participation through technologies, of course, but often reproduce the dynamic already existing in the relationship. So pay attention to that. And awareness, citizens' rights and duties from the politician's point of view. We should put on the table new questions in order to have new answers. Without awareness of new dynamics, we risk to govern new processes as a quantitative extension of the old one, and it is not useful. The services must be redesigned by people having the consciousness, the awareness of the new question and new answer. We need a deal and teamwork. You know probably about the triple helix. So we should involve all the stakeholders, administration, enterprises, companies, universities, schools, research centers, and also NGOs, social and cultural associations. And another acronym is on deal: democracy, empowerment, accessibility, and literacy, which is essential to be able to use technologies. So what can we do? In summary, we need sustainability and resilience. You all already talked about that. Openness and transparency, participation and collaboration, connectivity and creativity. So why Open ABC? Open source, sharing code. Sharing is the keyword. Sharing code, sharing data, open data, but also information. You probably know about FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. Open innovation, sharing experience. And sharing. I don't have to tell you what cultural and creative industry means. You know much better than me. But I can tell you that sharing of data, software, even projects, it's for sure the basis of the growth and development of the community. Industrial transition. In the paradigm of the manufacturing of the future, thanks to innovative digital technologies, companies will be capable of greater interconnection and collaboration within their resources. And this, I'm sure, will drastically change their efficiency and competitiveness, the co-opetition, let's say. So I said sharing. Why collaborate? Think about this prism. We should work together, because I see of this prism, I see some faces. You are on the other side and you see some other. The people on my left will see some other face, and on my right some other. If we work together, if we look at the prism from the different point of view, we will be able to see all the problem, all the faces of this prism, and we will together find a better solution. That's the only way, in my opinion. I said it already. And then another way to play with words, not interdental floss, but intermental floss, because we open our mind in having free software. And when I'm talking about free software, open source, people is talking about total cost of ownership. Yes, okay, I understand. But we could add an S before: a social total cost of ownership, a sustainable total cost of ownership, a simple total cost of ownership. In the long history of mankind, those who have learned to collaborate have prevailed. Darwin said that, not me. Sharing. What do we lose? What we will gain in sharing? Sharing multiplies. This is a joke, of course, but it's true. It multiplies knowledge, as we see so far. So Let us not look back in anger, is not useful. No forward in fear. We will be too static. We will not be able to go forward, but around in awareness. We will be able to do much better than that. And talking about knowledge sharing, all my slides, of course, are under the Creative Commons license by SA, so attribution, share alike, so you can do whatever you want on this slide, just share alike and attribution to me. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Before the questions, I'd like very much to do a personal statement about what you said, because in this moment it's important publicly to state my solidarity about what you said about the violence against women. So I want to join my voice with yours, because I think this is a shame in the world what we are trying to forget or trying to look at the other side. So I like very much to state with you the same thing about this. So I like very much to do so publicly. It's important to do so. So thank you very much to remember us that in such a conference, a meeting like this one. So thank you very much. So
thank you.
If there is some questions, I will be very happy to, because I have one.
Yes.
So I have one. It's very common to say the sentence, think out the box. But in fact, what I see in my life, and I have some years, and I used to say some kilometers in my legs, when I see someone thinking out of the box, people don't like it. And even in our environment of free thinking in the middle of the research and so on, thinking out the box is still a very difficult action to be accepted by the others. Don't you think so?
Yes, I agree totally. And I invented an hashtag about that, because I'm really strongly convinced that we should do that. And I'm talking about myself as a why notter against the yes butter people. Saying people who say yes but, oh gee, we will never go on that. Don't say yes but, you say why not? Let's try to do that. If you don't even try, you will never succeed. At least try. At least try. Of course, you will, you know, what American people say, trial and error. Think about a young boy, 10, 12 months old, is trying to stand up, go down. He will never stop. He will try again to stand up, and he will go down. And then maybe one step, maybe two, and then plus again. So they learn to live, to walk, to go on bicycle, trialing and error. That's it. As the answer to people saying that, yes, but my answer is always, why not? Let's try. So I'm a why not, not a yes, butter. That's it.
Thank you. The public has a question for you. And the question is, could promote creativity could promote technology's affordability?
Yes, of course, because technologies are just a mean. It's an instrument. It's not a goal. It's an instrument to do something. So if you learn to use it, you can use it in your way. As a Bill Gates did it, or Steve Jobs did it in different ways, but using technologies with their creativity could do something different. I can make a great software and for helping people in agriculture, and you can do it in helping people in culture. As I've heard about the culture heritage. How can you do that without technologies saving your information? At least one database somewhere where you put your cultural heritage. And creativity is just, well, technology is an instrument for going in this direction. I don't know whether I've answered to that.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have 1 minute more because I have another question. So I'm so sorry because I have a lot of questions. So.
It's okay.
But look, when you present a table where creativity was there, and this table with false start and so on, you remember at the beginning of your presentation?
No, but
there was the interesting part is there was no room for inspiring moments.
I do not understand. Sorry.
Sorry. When you present a table where there was the false start, the different it is about the vision at the beginning of your presentation.
Oh yes, the vision. Yes, yeah. Yes.
There is no, because it means the vision, because I still remember that Newton was, well, I know this is a story, but this is a very good example of what this one. Exactly, this one. The vision, skills, incentive, resources, action plan.
Yeah.
There is no room for the inspiring moments?
Yeah, you're right. Well, think about that. This is made exactly 21 years ago. You see the sentence there is a no one. You're right. We should put it. Why don't we add it together there? Creativity is a great idea. Thank you. Right.
Okay. Mrs. Marzano, thank you very much for your presentation. I thank you very much, and we move to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
So the next speaker is Mr. Raúl Brechat Barbera from Catalonian. He's he's a musician and trombone professor. But I think I can present him as he cooperates one of the beautiful house of music in the world, is the Liceu of Barcelona, and also with the Orchestra of Grand Theater, Philharmonic or Gran Canaria Philharmonic Orchestra, and also the Orchestra of Reina Sofia and the one of Julia Carbonell. I think this is, well, I told you before the meeting how pleased I was to know a person that performed in the Liceu where I studied when I was young. So I have a great pleasure to introduce, not in Catalonian before, because I forgot my Catalonian. Most of it I can read it, but and by the way, we are just the Irish speak English in Europe, but nevertheless we are speaking English. But no matter, let's do it, please, Mr. Raúl Brechat. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. Yes, in my background, I have all these years as a musician, but and all this experience that you have said. But now I'm here as a principal of the Music School and Art Center of L'Hospitalet. And first of all, I want to say thank you to all the participants that we are here, as Christopher that make all this presentation. Thank you to make this place, and to Anna Liberti to give the floor to explain our Music School and Art Center. This is a public policy of the city of L'Hospitalet. And also regards to Gian Elisa, that she said that she's from La Puglia, and we have a very important project with this region with Adelphia on the last years, and for us it was a very amazing place to be there, and thank you for your hospitality when we were there. Okay, I will share my screen and make this short presentation. Hopefully you can see everything. Okay. As I say, L'Hospitalet is a city that is closer to Barcelona, as you, Philip, said. And it's a city that is on the outskirts of this big city that you know that is in Barcelona, located in Spain. And I will try to explain in 10 minutes this public policy that started in L'Hospitalet on the 2005 with a general aim that is to democratize the access to the artistic performance and artistic education. After 16 years, we can say that EMCA, that is the Music School and Art Center of L'Hospitalet, has become a urban strategy for cohesion in a city that have more than 260,000 inhabitants. Just now, on these years, we have more than 2,500 students at the Music School and Art Center. It's a very big school. And to know you about the city of L'Hospitalet, you have to know that one of the neighbors, that the name is La Florida, is the name, it's one of the densest per square kilometer in all Europe. And this neighbor is compared to some cities in the north of India. Then you can have a little vision of what is the city of L'Hospitalet, and that this public policy started on the 2005, because before 2005, there wasn't any kind of public artistic education in the city. And 16 years later, we have a real public policy with more than 2,500 students practicing the arts. Then on the 2005, when the city of L'Hospitalet wanted to make this municipal music school and art center, the policymakers observed that they needed to create a different one because of the composition of the city and also the situation, as I said, on the outskirts of the big city of Barcelona, and to overcome the divide. And I have to say that if a typical white educated middle class person was likely to attend a traditional music school, L'Hospitalet has more than 27% of population with migrant origins. And also we have a city with difficult neighbors, a school with more than 90% of students with migrant origins. And on the 2005, the politicians said and response that they had to be a different school, and that was the reality that we have now, a school that give access to most of the people of L'Hospitalet. Then the response, it was, as you say, and for example, on the photograph, you see one of the primary school located in one of the neighbors of the city, that students, when they go to the primary school, they find the different subjects as languages, as maths, as science, but also they find, as you see in the photograph, the trumpet, the flute, and they, one day they make the instrument, and the other day they are making like a wind band, as you see with the teacher, that is the conductor. And then they make different concerts in all the city, and they have this opportunity to practice the arts during the school time, no? Then L'Hospitalet created this public service, in this case, the music and artistic education, and has a rights-based approach, and that it's open and accessible to everyone. And it reflects the diversity of the city population, because we try that all the students, for example, as you see in the photograph, that all these students that they are practicing the music on this wind band, they can continue their artistic education after they finish the primary school on the 12 years old. No? And when we started this public policy on the 2005, we also rethink the idea of probably I have to say to break the traditional way of learning on the music schools and also on the theater and dance, because before 2005 here in Spain, the tradition of these schools, it was that the students learn by one-to-one, one teacher, one student. Then on 2005, we started with this idea of group-based and play on pedagogy, because of then the students, they not only learn from the teachers, if not, they also learn from their partners and their friends at the end when they finish, when they stay at the school. Then after on the 2017 Eurobac program recognized us as a good practice and said that the public policy of L'Hospitalet, in this case the Music School and Arts Center, has achieved probably one of the most difficult elements that the public policy can get, that it's to the school, the public policy, it is a mirror of the city. And this we have arrived to this because of, as I said, the city is more than 28% of migrant origins population, and also we have had the big ensembles as the symphonic orchestra, the wind band, and also the main groups of the school that also have the same composition of migrant origins as the city have. No? And this we have arrived to get this to be a mirror of the city, because of we have made the extrascholar activity that is what we are doing after the school time, and what we are doing on the primary school during the school time, we are doing with the common and artistic and educative criteria, and we are doing absolutely the same in the morning and also in the afternoon. Then when the students finish the primary school, they can continue to the main building, and they can follow learning with other students that come from other parts of the city of L'Hospitalet. Then, if I have to say to different numbers of this good practice, is that the city of L'Hospitalet, it has more than 2,600 inhabitants. As I said, 28% of population with a migrant background. And then it's important that, as I said, of the group-based pedagogy, that the instrumental classes are between 4 to 6 students. We are now on 12 primary schools and also secondary schools in the tandem program, where the teachers go to the primary school and teach to the students during the school time. We are doing more or less more than 250, 300 performance per year. And for example, on the 2018, we had more than 3,400 students doing different activities on L'Hospitalet, in the city of L'Hospitalet. Also, the 58% of students that are the students of the primary schools, they don't have to pay to receive this education. We are more than 53 teachers on the musical school and arts centers, and also we have a very big bank of instruments that we share. We are hiring these instruments to the students. And the fees of the public fees that the students have to pay after the school time, it's between 15 to 79 euros per month. And we have more than 50 arts ensembles created in the school. And this is the reason that we can make so much performance in the city, in the main theater, and also in the auditorium of L'Hospitalet. I say that we say that we are doing all the performative arts as music, dance, and theater, every age, because we start between 0 years and we get to students that they have more than 77 years. For example, a student that he is playing the trombone and he is more than 77 years, and they can get to the different main ensembles. We said that we are doing every style because we are doing classical music, we are doing modern music, we are doing the jazz from American tradition, but also we are doing the jazz with the European traditional, as you probably know, the style of jazz manouche, that it's a gypsy jazz, and also we are doing traditional Catalan music, and we also make in the school dance, theater, and to the ages before they take an instrument. We are also doing for the early childhood. Every context, we are playing in different places in the city, as I said, in the theater, in the auditorium, but also in the squares of every neighborhood and every intensity. We have students that they make the complete program in the school, but also we have students that they only want to play in the symphonic orchestra because they also are doing their university, or probably they are working on their jobs. I don't know. Okay. This is the general education offer that we have at the school. That the small circles are the tandem projects, that the primary schools and the secondary schools, and the big circles are the areas that we have in the main building after the school time. This is the small city of L'Hospitalet, because it's a very, very small square meter of the city, and it's closer to Barcelona. And these are the different primary schools where the teachers go in the morning to teach to the different students. And sorry, because my computer is so slow, I think it's missing another. Yeah, here. We have this organization in the school, that we have all the teachers team, that, as I said, that were more than 50 teachers. We have the coordination team with the area coordination after the school time, and also the coordinators on the tandem project that is during the school time. We have a pedagogical coordinator that coordinates all this team, and also the general coordination, that we have the management team, that it's one person of production, one person in administration, one person in communication, and 2 people on the reception. And this is, in 10 minutes, I have tried to explain you what is a music school that started on the 2005, and after 15 years have probably get to be one of the schools that more other parts of in this case in Catalonia, come here to L'Hospitalet to know how was our project and how they can develop this project on their cities. And thank you for your time, and if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Raul. I'm so sorry, because I was so overwhelming about your performance in Liceu that I forgot to say you work in L'Hospitalet. And by the way, I know it quite well, because Hospitalet de Llobregat, it is the official name of the city in the southwest of Barcelona. So I'm so sorry but I was so overwhelming by this that I forgot to say that. This is, I have not told you, this is what we call the success stories. And if I could say so, perhaps it will be an interesting idea to understand why in Catalonia and in Llobregat there is such an environment. It is begun with the vision of the Spanish state, the Catalonian region, how it happened. There is this environment of success in the music in this case. I'd like very much to say something because as I told you before, I studied part of my life in Barcelona, so don't be surprised that I use this kind of words. But since I read a book called The City of the Wonders of Eduardo Mendonça Garriga, I was smashed by this environment of culture. Perhaps you want to try to help me to understand why in this region there is such an environment of culture that leads to the success of such a project like the music you are running in Hospitalet.
Well, thank you, Philip. As you say, probably in all Spain, but if we have to concrete in Catalonia and also here in L'Hospitalet, we have had our city with from the 20s different migrant background from all Spain, and they came to L'Hospitalet to work for, as you say, for the city in Barcelona. And then all these traditions that they came to from Andalusia, for example, from Valencia, in other migrant waves, they took their music traditional, their festival tradition, they took here, for example, in L'Hospitalet, and it's for this reason that we have a city with a very large cultural traditions, and the idea of doing this public policy in L'Hospitalet is to also be to get involved all these traditions, and why not making a lot of collaborations. For example, probably if you know Spain, there are a lot of tradition of Semana Santa that we have the cofradías that they go to the streets and then here we have in L'Hospitalet a cofradía that they goes outside on the streets. And we also with the music school we are involved with them, and also with other, for example, with the La Casa Galega, that we have a collaboration with them with different performance, and we get them involved in one of the most important days in L'Hospitalet, that is the inauguration of the fest of the L'Hospitalet Fest, that it's on May and April, May, it depends. And then we get all these stakeholders between EMCA, and we get different activities with them.
Yeah, thank you. I have been signed that these success stories that happen next to Dora Munoz and Pier Paolo Di Vitonto, the questions will be asked at the end. But I want just to save myself, just to try to explain why I have not asked you about this Hospitalet, and that's so I have a small excuse for me. So
don't worry.
But please wait till the end of these three success stories, and then we move for the question for the all success stories. Okay, thank you. And so I will I give the floor to Miss Idola Munoz from the Gaia from Gaia Basque District of Culture and Creativity. And so welcome, please, the floor is yours, and we hope we want to listen the success story of your work.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you to all of you for inviting us to to present and to explain what we are doing in the Basque District of Culture and Creativity, and what's this, what we are actually doing in it. So basically, well, my name, as you said, is Idoia Muñoz, and I'm working as an international project manager at Gaia. Gaia is the cluster of different kinds of organizations within the Basque Country. It started as the cluster of electronic and ICT companies. And after all the crisis within 2008, the new policies within the Basque government tried to emerge different clusters. And now we compile almost, we represent over 300 companies on not only on electronics and ICTs, but also on engineering, consulting, gamification. And now at this moment, we all know how culture and creativity industries are in Europe. I mean, so fragmented and fragile. And after the COVID situation, being one of the most affected sectors, negatively affected sectors, the Basque government tried to support, enhance, and transform this sector into a more industrialized sector. And so they, due to our experience as association or cluster, as I was saying, they gave us they offer us the opportunity to incubate the Basque District of Culture and Creativity, in which we are now working on with all the creative and culture industries within the Basque Country. So let me share with you my screen. Okay. I'm present you with it. Sorry. I guess that you can see it now. Let me maximize my screen. Yeah, that's it. So as I was saying, sorry. So the Basque government, together with Gaia and some other organizations within the culture and creative industries, and also outside this sector, we are trying to promote the creation of this BDCC, Basque Culture and Creative District, incorporating and giving the place to the CCI sector within not just the Basque Country itself, but also on the business support system that it represents, improving business competitiveness, R&D, internationalization, upskilling, etc. So and also enhancing its particularities and all that they represent. So that's why, I mean, we are working on this in order to coordinate the deployment of the BDCC with the goal to clusterize all these culture and creative industries, and also having as priority to industrialize the sector, having more sustainable and digital CCIs, and working on some of the areas that were mentioned before, on innovation and following, and a living lab methodology. Some of the areas that you were mentioning before were some of, for example, of economic strengthening, digital transformation, sustainability, and so on. So, but in any case, I mean, the Basque Country as a whole, just to give you an idea, is one of the 96 European regions that have been included as culture and creative industries in the smart in its smart specialization industry. And also these industries, they represent 9.8% of the companies in the Basque Country, and also 5.31% of total employment. So, well, just some figures. And as I was saying before, the aim of this initiative, in which we are working now, is the industrialization of this sector. So first of all, starting from uniting it, achieving an identity of the sector, that's something in which we are now working on as the first step. Then also making it competitive, professionalizing it, and giving it different tools in order to compete, not only at local level, but also at international level, and also give some other tools and opportunities and support in order to become an innovative sector. so participating in research and development initiatives, and also providing new tools for innovation. So we have been working with the culture and creative industries, with some of the representatives, in order to kind of identify the needs that this sector has at the moment. And we have been differentiating between what the business type needs are and what the needs as a whole sector are. So as you can see there, we have identified different business needs around business management, financial economic management, IPR, being IPR one of the most key issues at the moment, innovation around technological and non-technological aspects, internationalization as well, as I was saying before, one of the key areas to strengthen our industries, and also offer support in the training, recruitment, and retention of talent. And then as well, work together with the Basque government in helping them access existing information on grants, and accessing obviously to those grants and support services that Basque government is offering at regional level, and that also Spanish government is also starting to offer it now as national level, and obviously at European level, as we all know. So, and also some different needs as a whole sector, improving its visibility as a sector, also positioning it and also at international level, and articulated in the culture and creative industry sector, but articulating it not only as a sector, but also as a possibility to cross-fertilize some other sectors within the Basque government and outside, and also creating awareness, therefore, within the sector and within other sectors, as I was saying. So, our main priorities basically are to professionalize it, and also to, as I say, improve its visibility and industrialize it. The objective of articulating and identifying some are different nodes are the key for identifying the different segments in which our CCIs are conformed in the Basque Country. And I guess that can also be translated and extrapolated to some other regions in Europe. So these here are the different segments in which we have identified and classified our CCIs, obviously working together with them. So live culture, transmedia, design, creative services for habitat and construction becoming one of the key ones at the moment. Also, services for advertising and communication, and services for innovation in other industries within all this cross-fertilization strategy that I was mentioning before. So, and also in a transversal way, the network of nodes that can contribute to those segments that have been identified, which are strategic at the moment. So also the vision we have together with, when thinking on those segments are what we can do with those segments in order to professionalize them, and which are the methodologies that we can use in order to do that. So that's what we are doing at the moment. We are offering different capacity services, meaning training, obviously. Also, we are collaborating and looking for different best practices in order to show and offer help in the sense of digital transformation, and also helping them and supporting them in becoming a key part of the R&D system and innovation strategy within the Basque government, offering different models, tools, and solutions, and obviously positioning them at international level. So the methodologies that we're following are always based on the Live Up methodology. So starting from recognizing co-creation, cooperating, citizen engagement being one of the key ones as well, and also scaling up to other sectors, as I was saying, and also international level. So this is the reason why within the BDCC and within the Basque District of Culture and Creativity, we have started working on the creation of a living lab. I don't know if you are all aware of Living Labs. I guess yes, because Enol is one of the key partners in your project. But in any case, what we are doing is we're following these 4 steps that I'm showing you here in order to structure this BDCC Living Lab. Obviously using the Living Lab methodology as its basic pillars for cross-fertilization, user-centric co-creation, obviously, internationalization and product testing. So using all the know-how and all the experience from the DCCs in order to focus on those areas. And also obviously working together through projects in all these support system on the digital transformation, sustainability, and interactive contents. So not for the main aim of the culture and creative industries, but also in order to enhance the innovation in some other sectors and areas together with the CCIs through these digital transformation, sustainability, as I was saying, and interactive contents. And also using ICTs in order to enhance those new challenges and opportunities and promoting very much the digitalization of the CCIs. So going then to where we are focusing is, as I was saying before, digital transformation, sustainability, and interactive contents. That's why we are now working together with our companies in the structure of these different European programs that I'm mentioning here, which are European Green Deal, Digital Europe, and Digital Single Market. So with the aim of obviously enhancing all this industrial reconversion of the culture and creative industries towards digitization, sustainability, and with obviously a clear commitment to the single digital market. Let me mention why sustainability is one of the key aspects in which we are focusing as one of the challenges identified by the CCI industries in the Basque country, and with the help and support and obviously suggestion of the Basque government. And it is because of all these European, I don't know how to mention it, by hours, but basically what we are identifying and seeing is that ecological sustainability is one of the most transversal issues for the recovery and transition, and culture and creative sectors have the potential to play an important role within the European Green Deal and this new strategy by raising awareness, new innovative and creative ways of raising awareness, to initiate the debate on climate change and ecology, and also to help prototype solutions together with civil society and economy. So that's where we see their key contribution. And the way we are working on innovation and knowledge projects in those strategic segments and following this Living Lab methodology as we are showing you in here. So the topics of interest are the ones that I have just mentioned, and the tools that we are using in order to work on those topics together with the CCIs are the cross-fertilization, user-centric, internationalization, and product testing. And those are the areas in which our creative and cultural industries are focusing much more in order to give them an added value to those other projects in which we're working on. So and obviously through the structurization that I was mentioning before, live culture, transmedia, design, and creative services for habitat construction and other industries as well, and also for advertising and communication. So just a quick overview of what this Living Lab is based on then, and why. So basically our aim within this and how this can be seen as an added value, for example, in Interreg strategies, is because what we are trying to do and what we are already doing is we are cooperating most of all at trans-regional level in order to promote our culture and creative industries, most of all due to our key position nearby France. We're collaborating with the southwest of France, with Aquitaine, and also we are working a lot with Navarra, which is another Spanish region nearby in Basque Country, and we are collaborating a lot in incorporating the CCIs in this innovative and in this R&D strategy, and using the Living Lab and these structures as a methodology for the internationalization and cooperation at transregional level, and also to give the possibility and to provide the model of excellence in order to innovate and cooperate with other Living Labs and other centers of innovation within Europe. So basically, this is the presentation of BDCC, what we're doing. We just mentioned that I'm presenting it as a success case, and which we believe it is, because it is a success case of how to start structuring, at least in the Basque Country, an innovative sector like the CCIs, and giving them the opportunity to industrialize it. It is also something brand new, because we started 2 months ago as official, though, I mean, it isn't a conversation, and it isn't a strategy in which we've been working together with the Basque government for a long time. The reality became a reality 2 months ago. So it is a new project in which we're working on, but which is already giving us many opportunities in order to, and also showing us the impact that it is, positive impact that it is already causing in the CC industries, in the culture and creative industries in the Basque Country. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Idoia Muñoz. Please just remain for a couple of minutes, because in the end of the three success histories, myself, because I must say this, I cannot avoid to say that I wrote a book about living labs in the Mediterranean, a Mediterranean model for living labs. So I have a lot of questions, but please wait, because I try to discipline myself. I give the floor to the next speaker, Mr. Pierpaolo Di Bitonto. He is a computer scientist. He has a PhD in computer science. He works, I think he's a founder of Grifo. I don't know if in Italian Grifo means the same than in Portuguese, because Grifo is a hawk, a bird of prey. In Portuguese, at least, I don't know if in Italian is the same. Yes. And so this small is a multimedia and innovative and small and medium enterprise that develop digital solutions for educational purpose, but last time is develop also games and other materials. So please, Mr. Pierpaolo Di Bitonto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
And
Good
by
morning.
the way, sorry, just to tell you that in the end of also, we have the questions of the public in the end of your presentation, okay? Thank you very much.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much. Good morning. As you said before, I'm the supervisor of R&D activities in Grifo Multimedia. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm very glad to stay here. Just a moment, I share my presentation. Just a moment. Okay. From start. Okay. In the next 10 minutes, I'll try to explain what gamification is and the use of gamification in healthcare. At the end of the presentation, I'll show you a very short video about rehabilitation for people affected by Parkinson's disease. Okay, and let's start with a very famous video. You should pay attention to the effects of the game. We are in a subway station. In the beginning, people tend to use the escalator, as you saw before. It's very difficult to convince them to use normal stairs. But during the night, something changes. The staircase is transformed into a big piano. And what happened? People change their behavior and prefer stairs to the escalators. What is changed? Well, probably the stair now are more engaging, more fun than the escalator. So this is a brilliant example of gamification of a game applied to a problem of everyday life. Is the core of my presentation. So what is gamification? Gamification is the application of game design elements and game principle in a non-game context. Some classic games elements are points, badge, leaderboard. Points are used as a visual identifier of a progress, badge as a visual identifier of achievements, leaderboard as a visual identifier of competitive placement. We can use this paradigm, gamification paradigm, also in healthcare in order to motivate patients and guide them into the therapy compliance. In particular, gamification is employed in medication adherence, fitness and wellness, physical and cognitive rehabilitation. The strategy is to reward users who complete assigned tasks. A sample of motivational levels are progress bar to measure, such as showing progress with other players, leaderboard and competition, stimulation by competition, points, and so on. But gamification is much more than point, badge, and leaderboard. It is a game designed to help people enrich their goals. Now I'll show you a gamified approach in the context of Parkinson's disease. Let's start with the problem. Parkinson's disease is a progressive nervous system disorder that affects movement. Symptoms start gradually, sometimes starting with a tremor in just one hand. Over the time, Parkinson's disease may slow your movement, making simple tasks difficult and time-consuming. Your step may become shorter when you walk. Also, speech changes. Even if Parkinson's disease can't be cured, medication and rehabilitation might significantly improve patient quality of life. Considering the Parkinson's disease affects physical and cognitive abilities, so rehabilitation routines have to consider this characteristic of the disease. So rehabilitation activity is not easy to do. It may cause frustration and pain. It should be executed correctly according to the medical prescription. Usually, patients do not enjoy during the rehabilitation. If they are not well supported, they left. Game approach can be used as a motivational lever to improve patient compliance. Exergames are specifically useful in physical rehabilitation because are engaging and collect a lot of data about the movement. Exergame is a controlled environment where patient is stimulated and observed, and this is a perfect combination to evaluate kinematic parameters and the effects of the therapy. A lot of clinical trials show how game dynamics, patient-centered design can support patients and therapists in rehabilitation, improving treatment compliance. Dance therapy protocol are validated in a lot of clinical trials during the last years. Dance involves physical and cognitive abilities. Engagement is a social activity. It reduces a sense of frustration and isolation that sometimes affects patients. Our Excel game uses validated Irish dance rehabilitation protocol based on Irish music. The Irish music, more than other kind of music, reduce the freezing of gait, enhancing the dance experience. The validity of Irish dance protocol for Parkinson rehabilitation is proven in a lot of clinical trials and is published in a lot of medical journals. First of all, Lancet Neurology. This is the game loop in a session, in a rehabilitation session. The game session at hospital can involve up to 4 patients with a similar therapeutic goal about motor and cognitive abilities. In the setup phase, the therapist can set the number of initial parameters, such as track, exercise duration, and most importantly, the therapeutic goals on which to focus the session. The warm-up phase is preparatory to the correct execution of rehabilitation activity. During the rehabilitation session, each player has a key element on the screen: a visual representation of the step, a sort of virtual dance teacher that mimics the movement that the play will have to perform, and a humanoid avatar that replicate each gesture made by the user in a real space. The virtual dance teacher shows to the patient the step to perform. The patient has to repeat each movement, both in terms of correct physical performance and timing of execution. During the task, the game provides scores and feedback related to the player performance and adapt the difficulty of task according to the player performance. Moreover, the game can track physiological and kinematic parameters and game performance. Game performance are connected with the compliance to the dance choreography proposed by the game. Kinematic parameters are such as gait analysis or symmetry of the torso, cadence of the steps, and so on. The clinical parameters are heart rate and other physiological parameters. This is a very short video on how the game works. This is the patient that look at the screen, the movement, and execute the movement. While the patient play, the system analyze every step and reports and final at the end reports the clinical results. In conclusion, game-based approach is gaining credibility in the healthcare context. Pharma industry is investing in game-based digital therapeutics, and also European and American law are regulating the digital therapeutics production. We think that gamification is the future for the healthcare. Thank you very much.
I thank you very much. Well, in the end, I have questions for all. Okay, so still we are waiting for the questions of the public, using my abusing of my capability to be here. In fact, I have two questions. The first one, if you don't mind, the last one, because in my free times, no, I'm joking, it is not free times, because I work as citizen, I work with two things, migrants and refugees and Alzheimer patients. And my question is, you have your SME, you have the link with the doctors. There is a college of doctors, a council. How you work there?
Yeah, of course. My Grifo Multimedia design this kind of game in very strict collaboration with the hospital, with doctors. All this game are tested in a clinical trial. Today I'm in a public cafeteria, not in my office, because in the evening I'm going to the hospital in Ancona, not in my city. In Ancona, in order to check and test the game with the patient, in order to collect data and to improve the usability of this system, because this kind of system can work only if the design is user-centered. We believe strongly in user-centered design because if you want to motivate patients and doctors to adopt this kind of system, the system needs to be designed in user-centered way.
So you have a link that we could visit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we'll look for it. Thank you very much. But we're waiting for the public. But I, if you allow me, just abusing also still my situation to Idoia. I like very much two things that you were talking about. Well, I like very much that this smart cluster in Euskadi is a really interesting thing. Let me ask you two things. The first one is about something that touched me a lot, because I write books and my property rights are disappear in the air because they are disappearing. In fact, you have some results about your work because you have a work regarding intellectual property rights. There is some results about the work on that, and the second one was the living labs, because I don't understand, because living labs also means to do the mediation between stakeholders.
Yeah.
And so how you do this? So these two questions for you, abusing of my situation, then I begin to have questions, okay?
Okay, no, thanks for your questions. I mean, regarding the IPRs, it is something in which we're working on together with the University of the Basque Country, who are very experts on intellectual property and legal issues for protection. But at the moment, as I said, we are incubating this initiative. Okay. So we are already starting. So what we are doing at the moment is it's been one of the key pillars that have been identified as basic needs for the culture industries, culture and creativity industries, to learn, and teach them how to protect their IPR. And so this is something in which we are now engaged, structuring and working together with the University of the Basque Country, as I was saying, because as I was presenting it in the needs slide, which is one of the, as I said, one of the most important needs that has been identified in all this mapping that we have been working on. Because at the moment, what we are doing is mapping everything, mapping needs, mapping all the industries that we have, and also working in them in mapping also not just the needs, but the structure and everything. And why Living Labs? Because we are basically structuring all the things that we're doing in Living Lab methodology. We have been working also in Living Labs within Gaia since 2011, something like that. We are actually council members of ENOL, etc. And we have different Living Labs in other thematics. And we see that, the Living Lab philosophy, not just methodology, but philosophy as well, it gives great tools, and also to get great tools in order to use different methodologies, and also to structure the way of working with the different entities that we have to collaborate with in this BDCC. Because I mean, we are not just Gaia and the culture and creative industries, but I mean, culture and creative industries obviously are different because we have different segments as you were saying, and also we are including Basque government here. We're including universities like the University of the Basque Country, and also some research institutions that are also involved in here. So this quadruple helix is, and also in citizens as well, but I mean represented by different organizations. But so yeah, I mean, so this is why we're using this Living Lab philosophy. That we are also trying to infuse within the culture and creative industries, showing them the need that has been identified here. I mean, as here in Basque Country, and I guess that in all your regions, they have been so much affected, and they are still so much affected by COVID, that I mean, we have it has also helped us to not only identify all these needs and potentials, but also to see the real need and the real possibility that we have now, scaling up, not just scaling up, but pushing up these industries into a different level. Just working obviously on their sphere of that they're working, but using all their know-how, great know-how that, for example, you were showing in the previous presentation with gamification, that I mean, they have so much potential in some different in all different sectors of R&D and industrial sectors, that we have to kind of help them see it, and also help them structure all this know-how and transfer this know-how without losing these intellectual property rights, etc., that they have. So, why this is, trying to answer both questions, but also in the Living Labs. I guess I hope I have explained myself.
Yeah, you have. Thank you very much. So I have a question for Pierpaolo Di Vitonto and Grifo Multimedia. And by the way, Grifo, it's the same in Italy that in Portuguese or not? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm because I was really curious about that. Okay. The question is, what kind of skills you need for develop gamification tools?
Well, this is a very complex question.
Yeah, I can imagine. This is why I read it to you.
Yeah, someone say that to define a game, define a game is something like an art, but is also a science. So it's you have to consider, you have to have, you should have first of all skills about learning, because the game gamification is something that help to learn in a particular context, because in the case of healthcare, the patient make something if he understand the reason behind the specific action. So the game have to teach, have to enjoy so the dynamics, the game dynamics are those that I mentioned before. But the problem is how to use that game dynamics in order to involve, and you have to know, you have to study the end user. So you have to, another skill is the capacity of listen the user's needs and design a strategy to make to help the user or the player and accomplish their goal, their task. The other skill is a technical skill, of course, because the game must be nice to see, playable, and a lot of technical skills that come directly from the classical game industry. So gamification is a very large pool of things.
Thank you. No, I can understand that, because I could imagine it was a complex thing to answer that. Look, in the end of this session, if you allow me, just before presenting the next key speaker, let me just to say something. And by the way, it is important to be Christopher Meyer here, because it is interesting, because in the middle of a number of projects around the European Union, there is really, after this, seeing these success stories, it is interesting to, my reflection is how to remember, to make it well known, and as examples, because in 2 years we are losing what's happening in some cities, in some projects. Then it was important to keep them alive in the kind of network. We must think about this kind of thing, because we are losing a lot of skills in the middle of so many projects, so many things to do. But it was important to think about how to remember these projects, how to follow up these projects. It could be an interesting thing. And by the way, because Puglia region is here, perhaps it could be an interesting work to do this kind of things. But we'll speak this later. And thank you very much for the three of us, for the three of you. Idoia, Raul, and Pier Paolo, thank you very much. And if you allow me, I present the next speaker. Is like me, a professor. Is Fabrizio Panoso, and it will be the next speaker. Wait a minute. Sorry. Sorry, I have another question. Idoia, I have another question for you.
Yes.
So it is it happens sometimes like this.
It's okay.
Last question of all last question. It's a proposal for Idoia, but experience is a lot interesting in Puglia, and the Industrial Design Association is working on the same theme. They would like to exchange opinion with you as social and creativity community, and so they want to get in touch with you because of that. It is not a question,
Perfect.
It's a proposal. Okay.
That's great.
So
I mean, we're always open to collaborate with all of you.
I'm very glad to be the go-between here about that. About this. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So. Study in Ca' Foscari University, Venice. It is the last university where I published something. It is there in your university. I have a lot of colleagues there in architecture, not here, but it is a pleasure to meet you here, and in research and publish about this subject, of course. So I'm very curious and very interested to listen to you. So Professor, the floor is yours.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, I confirm I'm Fabrizio Panozzo from Ca' Foscari University, Venice, and I have the pleasure today to use my time to take you through my own experience and my professional experience as a researcher and professor in the field of culture and creative industries, with a background on nonprofit and social organizations, which can form my intellectual mix and lead me to the considerations that I would like to share with you. I've also been in the last few years, in the last couple of years, deeply involved in an Interact Med projects financed by the Med program. So I'm also a user of the program. So some of the considerations that we share with you are also coming from, and the examples that we make are also coming from a project that has been completed a few months ago. So I'll use my screen. I hope everything is visible. Please confirm if everything is visible. I will project. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so off I go. I will take you through my current reflections. I'm sharing with you also my research reflections. So I've been working in the last few months and publishing as well, or at least presenting at conferences, a few reflections on a couple of decades of policies devoted to culture and creativity. So this is why my title is not so provocatively, the title of my talk is After CCI. What do we do after CCI? And what do we mean after CCI? So I will spend the first slide explaining, taking a step backwards and going back to when CCIs emerged, and taking you through the reasons for me, which were the reasons for which CCIs have been supported, and what are the reasons now and in the future to pay attention to culture and creativity, maybe outside of an acronym that qualifies them as industries. And this outside of a set, outside of a sector, is what I call the ubiquity of culture and creativity. So this is the claim, this is the message I want to give. This is the signal, that this is what I want to signal, that probably in the future, in the coming future, in the next few months, we need to think about culture and creativity in another way, which is more ubiquitous. In order to make my point, I start from the beginning. The beginning is not so old. The beginning, we have to go back to the last decade of the 20th century, in which CCI's culture and creative industries were invented. So we need to remember this beginning of CCI. CCIs were not the result of a carefully designed quadruple helix. They were not the result of joint reflection between civil society, academia, businesses, and government. They were a governmental invention. So they were invented by a government, the UK government, in a very specific time, in a very specific place, in the second half of the 90s, in the 20th century, in order to tackle a very specific problem that had to do with what we are discussing today. Today, we are discussing industrial transformation. CCIs, we always have to remember, they were invented because of industrial transformation, because in the UK, at that time, the government felt that the mode of capitalist production of the UK, which was the mode of capitalist production of Europe at the time, was changing, had been changing for the last couple of decades, but governments had been not so quick in reacting to that change, or maybe didn't have find a way to react to that change, because basically the manufacturing-based model, the model that granted the development of Europe in the 20th century was not there anymore. It was crumbling. We were facing globalization, and manufacturing was moving to places where labor is cheaper, to put it simply, and governments needed a new idea. They needed a new way of making sense of their economy, of their society, and culture and creativity, they provided an ideal answer at the time. So there was a decline in labor-intensive manufacturing, but at the same time, there was a recognition that another type of economy was emerging, a knowledge-intensive economy. So how do we call it? We tried to call it for a while knowledge economy, but culture and creative industry, I think, created a more effective label, definitely a more effective label, because they qualified something that existed, but they sort of put a spotlight, a light on culture and creativity as a sector. This action, this political action, which I stress is a political action, it is the invention, it's an act of creativity by a government, had a number of consequences, because it also captured the fact that the economy was changing according to a knowledge base, but then also we saw the emergence of the greater economic relevance of the category of the symbolic, the social, the emotional. We recognize all these categories, the symbolic, the social, the emotional, they used to be outside of the economic. So being social meant not being economic, being emotional meant not being rational, being symbolic meaning not being real. All these aspects have now been absorbed, and they started to be absorbed into the economic, the competitive, the managerial. Think about the social. The social in the 20th century used to be, it was used as a category to separate from the economic. What is social is not economic. With the invention of Facebook, the social network, the network becoming social became a product. It is now one of the massive generators of wealth is something called social, in which you exchange emotions and you find friends. So all these aspects that used to be outside the economic, they've been captured into the economic. So this is why also this is the channel through which culture and creativity, which used to be thought as outside the economic, they got embedded into a sector. So embedding into a sector was the original choice that was made by policymakers. And I argue that this embedding of this closing, that this packaging of culture and creativity into a sector has had so far very positive consequences, very positive outcomes, but has been starting to be more a problem than a solution, and we surely have to be abandoned, as we've already seen, will have to be abandoned in the coming months, and I explain why. So my question is, again, not so provocative. Do we still need CCIs? Sorry. And when I ask the question, I don't mean, do we need culture and creativity? What I mean is, do we need a box in which we place culture and creativity, and upon which we devote policies, resources, support, and governmental help? The feeling I have is that we've needed it for the last decades. We don't need it anymore in the future, and we have to learn to get rid of the boxing of culture and creativity. The identification, the isolation of culture and creativity in a sector, in an industry, has been useful, as we've seen also right now in the examples. It has been useful to create visibility, to celebrate relevance, and to attract interests and funds. So we had to do it in a way, politically, socially. We had to sort of switch on this spotlight, to illuminate culture and creativity, to affirm politically that culture and creativity were relevant, and to devote resources to culture and creativity. And in order to do so, we had to box them. We had to put them together into a box and make something with that population of enterprises and people within the box. But the mechanism of identification, the mechanism of isolation has also a dark side in a way. When we identify, when we isolate, we risk to degenerate into other mechanisms, defensiveness, closure, stereotypes, all the mechanisms that we use to maintain the boundary, to maintain a presumption of difference, a presumption of distinctiveness. Either it is natural, either this distinctiveness is out there in real life, but if we have to maintain it politically, if we have to maintain it administratively, it starts to become kind of stiff, rigid, a bit bureaucratic. We use words more than practices, and we carefully craft phrases in order to explain why those typologies should be kept together. And there's a risk there, because as reality changes, as real economic and social life evolves, then these categories, they have to adapt. And if those categories are not needed anymore in the form of a box, we need to learn how to make sense of them. So my question again, do we need to keep culture and creativity in their own box in order to respond to the challenges of industrial transformation? My answer is no. My answer is that we have to think of something else. We have to think literally, bring those out of the box. And how do we do that? How do we bring culture and creativity out of the administrative and political and statistical box in which we've placed them for very useful reasons? We should, I think, position culture and creativity within industrial transformation rather than on a side, rather than thinking of culture and creativity as one of the many actors of industrial transformation. We should see culture and creativity as an integral part of the ways in which all the other organizations, all the other businesses, all the other elements and components of society function. And this comes, and here comes an example from the Interreg project that I've managed, in which we've tried to use art. We didn't speak in this case of culture and creativity, so explicitly we use art as the ultimate condensation of culture and creativity. And we've been working on the role of the artist. And in this project, we came up with the idea of artist residencies in business environment. This has been our attempt. This has been our way of exemplifying what I've just said, to move culture and creativity away from a sector and bringing them in close connection with business environments. So we proposed this idea of the artistic residencies. Why residencies? Because we wanted to stress the importance of interaction. We wanted to stress the importance of some idea of intimacy, of intimate relationship, not an episode, but a longer extent of time in which artists could inhabit the environment of industrial transformation. They could stay, they could live, they could interact, they could talk, they could have lunch together with people in a more industrial business environment. And we multiplied these examples across the Mediterranean, because again, it was financed by the Interreg Med program. We multiplied these examples of artists having the opportunity to imagine solutions, or even just think about problems together with managers as entrepreneurs. We stress here the importance of space and time. Interaction has to be spatial. It has to happen in physical places, and it has to be extended, and it has to have time available to evolve, to play out in different ways according to the inventions or to the exchanges that the protagonists put in place. We think that with these and other examples, we've not been the only one to experiment with artistic residencies, but we think that art placed in contexts reveals its transformative potential. So here, culture and creativity summarized in the notion of art and in the role of the artist, we've tried to stress how art can transform. And in its transformative potential, it can accompany, reinterpret, suggest something new also to industrial transformation. But this transformative potential of the arts resides also in the capability of eliciting, of identifying, of making visible the cultural and the creative dimension of industry itself, of the non-officially cultural and creative industries themselves. In making these experiments, in conducting this project, one of the main results was the blurring of the boundaries between the creative, the cultural, and the industrial. The more artists interacted with managers as entrepreneurs, the less the difference was visible. The more you bring interaction into the practice, the doing of things, the more you see that culture and creativity are an asset that exists in every organization, but we have to find a way to make it visible and to celebrate it in every organization rather than having it in a box. I don't know where I'm taking too much time, so I try to speed up a bit. I think that as a consequence also of the more general considerations I've made, and more specific consideration I've made based on my own experience, I think that there's a challenge now for CCIs, and it is the challenge that I named the challenge of ubiquity, the challenge of being everywhere. After a couple of decades, I think, spent in a kind of protected environment, we use for CCIs very often the notion of the incubator. So the incubator is fine, but you know, incubating a life has always a dimension of protection on one side, but also a danger. You incubate a life that is in danger. So the question is, are CCIs in danger still? Do we need still to protect them? Or should we treat them like adults? I think the time has come to treat culture and creativity as adults rather than as life in danger, protected species to be placed in a kind of secluded environment in which they can flourish, protected from the threats of the environment. And how do we do that? How do we treat culture and creativity as adults? I think we do that by considering, interpreting culture and creativity more as a transversal phenomenon than a profession. Culture and creativity is not only something that you attach to your business card or that you write on a plate outside your office. Culture and creativity, they belong to society. They are used every day by everyone in every type of organization. Yes, of course, they are also a profession, but they can no longer be just a profession in a sector. So we should, I think, acknowledge the ubiquitous nature of culture and creativity, which means acknowledging the fact that they are everywhere. How do we do that? How do we start getting used to this idea that culture and creativity is everywhere? Well, one move, for instance, is refrain from the stereotyping of the creative. The creative is not, as shouldn't, I think, be blocked and framed, both the creative as a category and the creative as a person, into the stereotyping of the creating of the culture as young, visionary, smart, why not, uncanny, colorful, weird. We've heard a lot in the last couple of decades. We've characterized, and I think we've stereotyped by now, the creative into this world of the color, of the crazy hair, of the funny way of speaking. It is the time again to become adult and to look at the creative dimension, not so much as a kind of funny category, weird category of the economy, but as something that fertilizes the society. So I think we should think into the boxes rather than out. We should bring culture into the boxes, and the boxes being the major drivers of transformation that we encounter and were presented to us before as well. So sustainability, innovation, internationalization, technology, biodiversity, tourism, these are the boxes in which culture and creativity should be placed rather than being a box itself. So I think this is the challenge of ubiquity, to think into the box, and the box is being the rest of society, the society, and the challenges that society faces. My two final slides are a quick explanation of the ubiquity of creativity. Creativity is not, again, as I said, a specialistic knowledge owned by some. Creativity is owned by everyone, but it has to be seen as an essential component of economic and social transformation. Creativity in that sense, again, is not a professional characteristic, is the attitude to constant change, to constant challenging the current state of things. And for instance, entrepreneurship is a quintessential creative act when you become an entrepreneur, you challenge something, you defy something, you defy a status quo. You are unhappy and frustrated with something, and you want to start up your own because you can't find a box, you can't find a space. And what do you do when you do that? You act creatively, you invent something new. We should recognize that creative dimension in entrepreneurship, and not only when entrepreneurship is digital or fancy or comes in the form of technological startup, but any kind of entrepreneurship. We should move from stereotypes, the one that characterize in a sort of very visible, very strong distinction between creative and industrial, and move to oxymorons, accept oxymorons. We should talk of industrial creativity, and why not? We should imagine creative bureaucracy or creative engineering. We should get used, I think, to this way of speaking in which creativity is mixed and challenges. Think about creative bureaucracy. I guess we find it hard to even think of creative bureaucracy, but we should, because we should challenge governments to be creative in the way in which they are bureaucratic. Finally, the ubiquity of culture. Again, culture is everywhere. Think about industrial transformation. How do we learn about industrial transformation? We don't learn about industrial transformation looking at the way in which industry is transformed. We learn about industrial transformation as kids in school, during the history classes, when we are told that at the beginning of the 19th century, something happened, history changed, and we call that industrial revolution. But that is part of history. It's the history professor that tells us about industrial transformation in the first place. And it happens when we are 8 years old. So this is where we learn as very young pupils that industrial transformation is cultural. And we should tap into that. We should tap into the cultural roots of industrial transformation. So the transformation of how we produce what we are, what we use, and how we work is deeply cultural. And we should look at this cultural dimension of industrial change. Because industrial organizations, they are cultures, and we should look at them as cultures. They are cultures to the extent that they put together humans, techniques, knowledge in time and space. So we should look at enterprises as cultures. We should look at businesses as culture. We should use culture to interpret the way in which industries are being transformed and the way in which organizations change. Another element of culture, which is already, doesn't need to be brought in, is already in industry, is the theme and the topic of heritage. Organizations, they maintain layers, they maintain the memory of the past transformation. Many industrial organizations, they have museums, and increasingly, at least in this part of the world, organization and industrial organizations, they are interested in preserving their memory. The more they are pulled into the future, the more they desire to preserve their past and their heritage, because the heritage is what links them to a territory, to a society in which they've grown up. So to conclude, the transformation of industry must be seen in connection with the transformation of places and people, because this is what make industrial transformation truly cultural and creative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I was looking for my mouse. It doesn't obey me, so this is why it takes so long to. Thank you very much. Let me say, Professor, let me say a couple of words about what you're saying. Two things. The first one, I don't recognize that as a provocative presentation, but a quite challenging one. You agree with me? At least it's challenging.
Yes,
I think.
Let's say challenging.
Yeah, I like the words. Yeah, challenging. Let me because we are of course accepting questions if there is any, but as usual, I have one. During many years, because I'm finishing my career, but during many years, I was professor a little bit around the world. And the interesting question, when you remember us, how it started, the idea of CCI, and by the way, in the statistic of international trade, it gave the British an opportunity to write down the statistic. It's a kind of substitution, as you said, a substitution of industrial that they want to changing or make it disappear or challenge or threatening to disappear. But the interesting part is, I was professor in China and in Canada and in Africa, South America, and so on. And the interesting part is, do you risk with this challenging to have a speech for Europe and United States, but it doesn't fit with the situation in Asia or in Africa or South America? Don't you risk to have this? And this is something I don't know if you understood.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't you risk to have this this challenging for Europeans and not for in Africa, where you spend 0.00 I don't know what in culture or creativity and so on?
This was my reflection was strictly European. So I was looking at the way in which policies for CCIs have developed within Europe. My view, also as a professor of cultural policy, is that everywhere, depending on the dynamics of development, you need to have a period of time in which you isolate culture and creativity and you do policies for them. Okay. It happened in Europe. It happened in the UK, and then it was transferred to continental Europe, and it went through a phase. And my feeling is that the phase is now not over, the phase is being transformed. There was a phase of identification, isolations, and policies. But we've seen before, from the presentation of the new priorities and modalities of the MED program, that things are changing, that culture and creativity is asked to be ubiquitous, as I say. And this has been a positive result of 20 years or 20 more years of policies devoted to the sector. So okay. You need them. You will need them in Africa. You will need them in South Asia when they are needed.
Yeah, I asked that because still we have a lot of students coming from these countries to Europe, and they are a little bit shocked with this these new approaches, and this is why I want to put this question. But I have two questions for you.
Yes.
The first one is the look and feel of products are jobs of creators, and the development of how the products work are the job of engineers. The question is whether the engineers are indeed creators and that they add creativity to engineering of a product.
Gosh, this is difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, can you ask me the second?
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
The question? Okay. You want to repeat the question? Yeah.
No, I can see your point.
Okay. It's not me. It's a person from the public. Okay.
That's from the public.
Yeah. The next questions is from the public. Okay.
Okay. On this first one, I must admit that as an organizational scholar, spending time within organizations, looking at the way in which designers and engineers interact, they do not respond to that classification. In reality, engineers and designers, they do not fit into the academic distinction of what they should do. They do. And when they do things in context, the boundaries between their function, they blur. And when the project is successful, it is because the boundaries have been blurring between formalized categories. This is part of what I want to say. I know that in order to speak, in order to say things academically and politically, we have to box and we have to attribute meaning to definitions. But then we also have to be aware that people out there in businesses, in real life, they constantly blur and contest the boundaries that we define, especially the boundary between making something function and making something beautiful. You mentioned the Bauhaus at the beginning. The Bauhaus is the quintessential expression of the fusion between functionality and design. No one at the Bauhaus was worried about asking, are you an engineer or are you a designer? The challenge was to be both at the same time. Not surprisingly, this is what the European Commission wants from us now. They want us to be inspired by this mixing that originally was conceived in the Bauhaus.
Yeah, thank you. This is why I like Bauhaus, by the way. Yes. And nobody has to Kandinsky if he was a painter or an engineer, right? Yes. Yeah, okay. I have another question from the public, and it goes like that. The question is, CCI could create a dimension of job connectivity in an industrial transformation context in order to improve resilience of employment strategies and then of SME.
If CCIs could do that?
Yeah. CCI could create, this is a question, huh?
Okay.
A long one, but this is CCI could create a dimension of job connectivity in an industrial transformation context in order to improve resilience of employment strategies and then of CMEs?
Culture and creativity could. Not CCIs as a sector, but culture and creativity as a process, as an attitude. I think that the answer would be yes, if we replace CCIs as a sector to culture and creativity as a practice. So yes, culture, for instance, the cultural analysis and the cultural reflections and the cultural practices within organizations, they can make organizations more resilient, for sure. I know it personally, because I'm conducting cultural analysis and I'm bringing cultural activities and processes within organizations, and they become more flexible and more resilient. So the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. And the last one I have here for you, Professor, from the public still. What policymakers can do to contribute to this process of overcoming the boundaries and help culture and creativity to reveal its transformation potential?
Ooh, that's challenging. Policymakers, they are challenged, of course, by this, because it is in a way easier to work with boxes. What I think they have to do is to encourage what I called before oxymorons. They have to encourage the mixing. So they have to stress, for instance, the cultural and creative dimension of industrial transformation. One example, when we speak about robotics, when we speak about fourth industrial revolution, let's make these terminologies more dense from the cultural point of view. What does it mean to talk about the interaction between man and machine? We can't take for granted that when you mention robotics, everything is fine and beautiful just because this is the latest technology. You have to look at the impact of these technologies also from the anthropological and cultural point of view, and not for the sake of knowledge. Because if you don't do that, if you don't provide a cultural interpretation of robotics in industrial transformation, you simply lose the opportunity of being more competitive. You're less competitive because you didn't train, you didn't interpret your organization also from the cultural point of view, and you imagined that since a solution works technically, it has to work also socially.
Oh, that's nice. Let me say one thing, a small comment about that. It is that for these public policies, it is needed that the politicians accept accept the idea of ubiquity and smash the idea of boxes, don't you? Isn't it?
Yes, that's
a
challenge
for the future. It will be difficult, huh?
It is first and foremost a linguistic challenge. It's the language politics and policy speak. Yeah. I would like to live in a world in which there are less buzzwords that circulate and there's more meaning. I mean, we need words to communicate. Of course. But I fear when they become something that you just repeat. You know, we've been used in the last couple of decades to these slides in which you have to mention all the relevant words, otherwise people don't qualify you as an expert. I fear a little bit that effect. So I would like, first and foremost, university professors, because we are the producers of many of those buzzwords. So, and we have to be very careful because then our users, they keep using them with little reflection. So the invitation to policymakers, both politicians and officers, is to maintain a critical distance vis-a-vis the words that we produce. This is one positive effect of the triple or quadruple helix we should discuss and we should criticize among us.
Professor, I thank you very much. It is really challenging words from you. Thank you very much. I must give the floor to the next person, but I'd like very much to thank you the challenging words you have today. And so I'm going to give the floor for the conclusions, because I promised to finish our meeting at by 1 p.m. And the floor for Mr. Marco Di, who is responsible for the research and innovation section in Puglia region. So, you know, after this morning of discussion you have the floor to conclude. And I thank you very much for the work, the difficult work to conclude.
And a really warm greetings to all the speakers, and really nice to meet you again, Felipe, and also Christoph. We had some experience of exchanging and taking part to events in presence in the past. But I mean, we are in the process of moving hopefully towards a different situation in the future. Yes, I really appreciated the different point of view that we heard during this morning presentation. And yes, this innovation camp on industrial transformation in our purposes is not only targeting the most famous industrial transition, so acting in a more sustainable and ecological design and approach of policies, but has to be intended, like we heard this morning, as a real disruptive transformation of a larger efficiency or a stronger competitiveness of the territories. And as we heard this morning, not really adapting the technologies to a process, but really redefining the different processes. So I definitely agree with the point of taking out of the box the CCI, because one of the reasons, because we started this three multiple appointments of innovation camp, was really to understand how it is possible that CCI industries take part to the larger world of the industrial evolution. So it doesn't mean that we have to concentrate on the standard target of the CCI, but rather the standard target of the PCI should be adapted and can be used and can be transferred to the standard and innovative industries actions. So the purpose of this action in our horizontal project, as Mr. Christoph Meyer knows quite well, he's our representative of the JS in the InterregMed activities, is to connect the single vertical project with the innovative community in a specific model of innovation. So we are characterizing at a certain point a so-called Mediterranean model of innovation. Not because we are the best, not because we think we have a different innovative mind, but because we see that there are specific adaptation to the territories. And so this characterization is mainly devoted to promote creativity and innovation in different sectors, ranging from the cultural and creativity industries to the ICT, digital management, data management, to the food, or even to innovative public tendering. So we are entering a completely new time nowadays all over Europe with this recovery plan, with this next generation EU plan. And we are also experimenting new way of procuring activities, of procuring goods and services and works. And this is also done in our horizontal project, social and creative communities, testing the pre-commercial procurement activities, the PPIs, and so on. And this is based on a specific regional and territorial smart specialization policies and practices. So this means that what we're discussing here today and what we are doing during the lifetime of the project, in agreement with the specific goal of the Interreg, is trying to characterize the outcome of the project, the sharing of the experience, in order to transfer and mainstreaming this practice also at a political level. And how can we do that? All the region has these smart specialization strategies, and they are writing again because this is an ex ante condition for expenditure of the European Fund. And so that's the real place where all the discussion that we are doing, that all the sharing of experience should bring us in the coming months and in the coming years. We all know that today practice, case, and experience sharing that we heard today confirm that the most important raw material for the generation of value is the information, and especially how this information is managed and arranged. We have seen this in the gamification. Many years ago, gamification was called serious game because even the word was not really addressing and targeting the specific goals that we wanted to test. Also, we tested also here in our region. And nowadays it's becoming more and more one of the most information and one of the most important aspects, for example, in the medical experimentation and piloting of usage of medicines, therapy, especially for young people, but also targeting the what is so-called digital therapeutics. So I don't want to go too long with this conclusion, but I would like to take a few minutes more, I think I have it, to share with you a funny story that I found in a beautiful book of Cesar Hidalgo. I don't know if you know this guy, but he's a Chilean Spanish-American scientist known from his contribution to the economy complexity. It's an expert of data visualization. You know, it's working on all the steps that are related to the information and the growing of this information. And this funny story is mainly related to the information theory, starting from the case of purchasing of a very expensive car that was paid something like $2.5 million. This is a Bugatti car. And this is a story that he reported in the book just to leave a flavor of how we should think in the future the introduction and the extraction of information from our new industrial product, industrial services. So now, if we consider the per kilo price of a car, of this car that was paid $2.5 million, and if you divide for the total weight of the car, we can easily find determine that the per kilo price is around $1.3 thousand. So to put this price in a context, we can also look at the per kilo price of gold or silver, for example. So depending on the period, the price of a pure silver, for example, is around $1,900. Now, you may argue, as it says, that comparing a kilo of Bugatti and a kilo of silver is a pure nonsense, since there is not much that you can really do with a kilo of Bugatti. You can do more with a kilo of silver. Yet this nonsense has much to teach us about how physical information is placed in a product. So very quickly, imagine for a second that you just won this Bugatti in the lottery, for example, and pumped up, you decide to take this new car for a drive. And in your excitement, you crash the Bugatti in a wall. You know, the car is totally wrecked. Now, how much is the kilo of Bugatti worth? So what is the value of this kilo of Bugatti that crashed? So the answer is that the dollar value of the car is, of course, evaporated in the second it took you to crash it against the wall, but it weighs, the weight of the car did not. So where did the value go exactly? This is the main question he's trying to reply and to answer. So he says that the car's dollar's value evaporated in a crash, not because the crash destroyed the atoms, the material that made up the Bugatti, but because the crash changed the way in which these atoms were arranged. As the part that made the Bugatti were pulled apart and twisted, you know, the information that were embodied in the Bugatti was largely destroyed, exactly. So the 2.5 million of waste was stored not in the car atoms, not in the mass of the car, but in the way this material were arranged. So that arrangement is therefore information. So it means that information is inside the collection and arrangement of data, of knowledge, of experience that we are here today talking about and trying to investigate for future development. So I would say that, as Steve Jobs said in a conference, we are constantly taking things. He says, wearing clothes other people make, speaking languages that other people developed, or even using mathematics theory that other people built. And he says it's a wonderful ecstatic feeling to create something that can be put into the pool of human experience and human knowledge. So I think that this is really very, very important, especially for programs, for projects that have been funded by public money, by public program, and especially at the European level. So we hope that this reappointment of our horizontal project innovation camp, that I remind you started with number 1 that was on open innovation for society, is passing today with this number 2 on industrial transformation, and will land on a 3rd appointment on sustainable development in the coming year. I hope that this 3 appointment of our horizontal project can contribute to pave the way for a possible adoption of real disruptive policies targeting further evolution of science, economy, and especially quality of human being. So really, thank you very much for staying with us today, following and bringing your idea. And I really appreciate and representing here the lead partner, which is the Apulia region. I'm in charge of following all the aspects related to the research and innovation activities and procurement and innovation activities in Apulia, which is the in-house company of the region, and supporting the region in all the activities. And I really thank you for this very inspiring discussion, and I hope this will be food for thought also for the so-called horizontal project, horizontal working activities that we are doing this afternoon and also tomorrow morning, asking participants, and probably most of you will be also part of this working group, working on the strategies for accessing this change in terms of upskilling, in terms of innovative clustering, in terms of new dynamics, and in terms of creativity based. So I thank you all for your time. I thank you, Professor Felipe Barata. I always find better to call him Felipe because of our past experience, and also Christoph and all the speakers. And I hope that this discussion was fruitfully for the work of the development of future program in the Mediterranean area.
Thank you, Mr. Dicano. Marco Dicano, thank you very much. Just to say the conclusions have been made. I still have a proposition because it's arrived me a proposition, but it is interesting to read this proposition because it, I think it shows the interest of the public. It is that why don't we launch a capacity building program in regional entrepreneurial system such as Veneto's and Apulia 1 to diffuse creativity and cultural capacities? The public is interested, so I don't resist to read these conclusions. But to end, because I promised to end at 1 p.m. Well, it is 1. We fail for 6 minutes. Is in such a meeting is not bad. So the first thing is, let me thanks to everybody and all the speakers. And especially let me thank you, the people that helped me to do this, especially because all the questions and so on. And even the meeting is run smoothly because Anna Liberti is there to help me to run things. So thank you very much to Anna Liberti. And I would like to remember a couple of things. The first one is We know, and from the beginning when we speak about the Interreg MED program, we know what it was Interreg and it will be Interreg in the future. So, and Christopher Meyer is still here and so it is important to know which will be in the future. I like very much to thank and again to underline that Flavia remember us that the day for the violence against women, and I like again to state my support of this proposal. And I like very much to also to underline the important role of the 3 success stories we have here. It is important to remember there is success stories and important to be aware of what they are doing. It is really important. I also want to thank Professor Penoso, the challenging presentation he has done, and of course to Mr. Dicano to receive all. He's the master of the house. So thank you to receive us today. And thank you to you all. So we I think that the meeting will going on, and I thank you. I say goodbye to you all. Thank you very much. To the next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. And
Bye.